Good morning, everyone. This is Diane Murray at Southern Art Gallery, and today I am working on this painting of this cute little raccoon for a color theory class that I'm teaching. This is basically a monochromatic painting, with the exception, of course, of the greens, and the greens are all monochromatic as well. So, I have laid in a background wash. I have made a neutral from ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. And I have mixed up several different variations of it to get the different shades. I also have made up a green using the ultramarine and a nickel azo. And I've just been laying in the under wash, making this very soft and allowing this to not get too harsh, because we want the background soft. I've masked in some of the highlights and the white areas on his fur and on the reeds that are in the background. So now we're just you're going to work this a little bit further. I have rocks here in the foreground. I'm probably going to lighten this a little bit in there. So we will just continue to work on this. I have special brushes for doing fur. This is called a wisp, I think, and this is made by Royal and Langnickel, I believe. And basically what this is, if you can see here, it's a brush that half of the bristles at least have been cut out of, and therefore it makes it, it produces these marks that look like fur. The only problem with this is you can easily overdo this, and so you have to be very careful not just to do it every so often here and there to give the illusion of the fur. And I have a mixture of the ultramarine and the burnt sienna here, and I'm just adding the darks where I see them. Following the fur grows in a definite pattern on animals, so you have to pay attention to where the fur is. And I'm just continuing. I'm just going to continue to build up the anything that's too severe, I'll just blot back. And his fur is longer in some places and shorter in others. And I do want a soft transition into the background, so that's why I'm going ahead with putting this in here. Like so, just to build up his ears. And I'm going to change to a browner mixture. Back here he has a lot more brown. I'm just putting it here and there, softening it back. You can also use your spray bottle to do that. Because we're using a we're only using 2 colors here. You're not going to get the yellows in here that you would normally get. Such a beautiful little guy. Raccoons are so pretty. He's got a little bit of this coming up into this ear here, and a tiny bit right there. Soften that a little bit. Let's soften that just a little bit up there. If your hair is looking too pronounced, just soften it back with some water. Okay, let's put in, but I'm not going to use I'm not going to use this little rake brush for this, but I am going to put in some dark on his leg. Very wet though, keeping it very wet. I want this all to be very soft. And because everything should connect, according to Thomas Schaller, you need to connect all your forms. So we'll just connect that all into there. It does make it more believable if you do keep your forms all connected. And this is some of the darks I'm seeing in here. Just drop those in. This is a very low-key painting. And along the edge of the rock, we want some darks in here for a shadow. And we can put some more darks just along here. Not being too careful with the colors, just looking for darks and mid-tones, really looking at the values instead of the actual colors. We've got another rock back here. We're going to make him dark. And again, carry him in here. So we don't have any shapes that stand out alone. Prevents you from having this look that everything is pasted on. When you're painting organic things like rocks and water, it's best to keep it soft. We really want this to look like it's running down into the reflections are running down in there. And let's hit that little rock back there also with a little green, darker green. Even though it's lighter in the photograph, we're going to make it darker. Give some texture to these rocks. There's lots of different ways to do that. That being the easiest one. Okay, we're going to let this dry a bit. I don't normally do a graphite drawing underneath, but I did that for this little raccoon because he is his shapes are so soft. He doesn't have definite linear movement here. It's all shapes. So I think it's better to do that with the graphite and then just trace it and fill it in. That's better because he has a definite change in color, in the hue and shadows from here to here. So I'm trying to define that. We do want a good bit of gray in his tail. So cute. I love painting animals. Okay, his foot's a little too wet to actually put anything in there. If you don't have one of these brushes, you can use a fan brush, or you can just use a liner. I'm going to darken his ears up a little bit, because they're very dark inside, but very watery. I don't usually paint with this much water, but on him, I think it's a good practice to painting loose. That looks good. I have a little more black in him and his leg here. Let's paint back up into that hair. Just so that his leg matches the rest of his body. And again, we'll drop it into the rock here. So I am going to pull a little of that gray up into there, to that ear, and a little bit up into here, and back into there a little bit, just to soften that a bit more so it's not such a hard shape. Okay, we're back, and I've just mixed up a darker tone with the ultramarine blue and the green that I had already on the palette, just to give some darks to emphasize the what's going on with him. And I felt like it was way too, the monotone was way too, the monochromatic was way too flat. So I'm just dropping this in. With this flat brush, and then we'll soften it. We just needed more contrast back here, I felt like. So I'm just putting this darker color in here around the rocks and here and there. This is just dry brush, when you just scrub the, just to soften those edges. Also going to spritz this again because I don't want this hard. So I'm just going to put some darks here and there in this rock. Little crevices and maybe where it meets the light there. And we'll just soften that a bit. We'll also let this run down again for the reflections. And I think we'll put some more dark up in here. There's some real dark coming into him here. Just to give the illusion that there's some trees or whatever back here. And just make it a little more interesting. You can also do this to give the impression of reflections in the water. The other thing you can do is lift in your rocks, like this. You can use a sponge. We definitely need to soften that edge there. This is unusually wet for me. I don't usually paint this wet, but I'm really trying to get a softness with this painting.